Jan, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. I was making a change to my menu last week, and it was a pretty important change. So I wanted to see that it took right away. And as long as I was logged in, I was seeing the change. But the minute I log out, it took an hour before I could see the change. What's going on there?
It can take some time depending on the number of changes that were made or the amount of changes that are being made across the system. It is the cache that can take longer, and it can be per individual user, the amount of time that it takes. I was emptying the
cache. Every time I went to check, I would empty the cache. And as long as I was logged out, I couldn't see it. As long as I was logged in, I could.
I think there are two kinds of caches. Amory's, I mean, we have caches within our computers, but the server, Amory's, the server sometimes has cache, so it doesn't refresh. So that's away from you. You can't control that. But
yeah, I can check in to see what our kind of process is for the cache and how that is. I'm not sure if it's flushed periodically, but I can check in to see if there's anything that we can do there.
Well, that's happened to, I think, a few of us. And, you know, for me, I've actually had programs where I couldn't even see what I've done until, you know, later. You know, at least we know what it's supposed to look like. And then I just kind of say, okay, I'll check in an hour. And then, you know, it's usually up, and maybe even before that. So at least for me, it's not a horrible problem, but.
Well, yeah, it's not a horrible problem as long as you're not fixing something that needs to be fixed right away.
I understand. And we've had those too.
and Mary Jo, are yours involving a difference between what happens when you're logged in and when you're not logged in?
Well, when I'm logged in, I see what I did. Yeah, I see what I did. And then if I logged out, then it's hasn't happened yet. So, okay, I'll wait a little bit.
But it's not just me, because I have a test user I use. And as long as my test user is logged in, they see the change right away. But if I log out on the test user, or if I log out as me, I don't see the change anymore.
Yeah, we all
when you're not the administrator.
No, even when I'm the administrator, if I log out, I don't see the change.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it wouldn't be tied to a user, but just with the different caches between the physical user, so whether you're logged in as the test user or your webmaster account, and then our caches on the MyLO servers.
I imagine that some of us don't see this effect because we don't log out to see what it looks like. So I might have the same problem, but just not.
Yeah,
I always have that every time I make a change. You know,
that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I just joined, and thank you so much. I experienced that, and I had no confidence in my abilities, and so it was just it eventually you do see it, but I would try and log out to see what it looked like, and it wasn't uploaded yet. Yeah, and my predecessor had the same thing, so I recall the reason why, but at least or I joined late. But at least we know that we're not going crazy. So.
Right. Yeah, I spent hours trying to figure out what I did wrong. And then all of a sudden it just showed up, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I guess that's the way it works.
Well, it seems like it could be in the settings for the server.
Yeah, I definitely will check in with the tech team about that. I know that we have a way to manually do it, but I want to know how we can improve the automated process of having that refresh. Thank you for that question. Did we have any others? Any other questions or issues that you were dealing with?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to review your materials, but again, thank you so much. I'm from Lee County.
Yeah. definitely.
So I'll go to school and then I'll join when I can add more value.
Where is that? Lee County.
In Florida. So
Oh,
we're a
Florida.
really active league, as you can imagine, both statewide and national issues. And I'm communications. And so I've successfully now learned MailChimp. So I look forward to learning Webmaster. So
Nice. Yeah. We would love to have you here in these sessions because I feel like it is the most hands-on and easiest way to get to learning, other than just jumping right into your MyLO site.
Okay.
Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, I can just jump right into what I was going to cover. It's going to be really simple. I got a question from a webmaster earlier this week where she had forwarded an email to me that she received from another league, and she wanted to be able to post that email message onto her website. She got permission from that league. And so I thought, okay, why don't I share the same steps that I shared with her? She eventually found an online version, so it made her life easier. But essentially what I told her with the email message, and we're going to use this email message. It's our California Education Fund thank you email. And so I told her that you want to break this down by sections because I think what she was initially doing was highlighting everything all at once and then copying and attempting to paste it all into MyLO. And that you'll see won't work. The images will not get carried over properly. Sometimes the links might not get carried over properly. So what you want to start out with first, before I get to what I'm going to copy from the email, I'm going to start out in my MyLO site and decide where I want it to display. Being that it is, if it were a different subject, not a thank you for your donation email, it could be an action alert or just a newsletter. I can decide between what type I'd want, if I want it to be an article or an action alert, or even just a page. And it's a basic page that I can have display really anywhere. But for this example, I'll just go with an article. And I'll jump down to the body. You do need a title and a type, but we'll skip that for now. And starting out here, I'm going to come back to the email. What I want to do first is get all the text in. So that's the first layer, starting out with the text. Even if there's links included in this text, you are technically copying them, but when we go to paste, we want to paste as plain text. This is going to keep your text as clean as possible. If you do end up pasting regularly or paste it without plain text, you'll have a chance that it will look pretty regular. But a lot of times, especially like with Microsoft Word documents, we see a lot of extra formatting, and it's harder to work with that and manipulate it with what you get here and these different styles. So pasting as plain text is sometimes easier. So I'm going to undo that and paste as plain text instead. Similar idea, but it definitely will make your life easier if you're having trouble making formatting changes. And then from there, yeah, Jan, I see your hand is raised.
Is that the same as using the plain text box in the toolbox above?
Yes,
Right
thank you for pointing that one out. Yeah, I can't remember which one it is. This one here with the little T on top of it enables you to paste in plain text mode. So by clicking that, your browser will most likely give you the same warning. It says paste is now in plain text mode. Click again to toggle back to regular paste mode. After you paste something, you will be returned to regular paste mode. So it's enabled for your next paste. So if you right click and paste, or you use your keyboard with Control V, it will automatically paste in plain text. So let's see if I can copy some text that's not so plain. I'm going to just Google something. Oh, I guess I could have searched from that page. Okay, so we have some text here that I want to copy. Definitely has a paragraph style and a link in there. So I have the plain text still enabled, and I might need to enable it because I'm going to zoom in my screen to make it a little easier to see. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So coming on back, I'm going to start a new line. All right, my paste as plain text is still enabled here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to use my keyboard this time. Paste as plain text. So there we go. Just to compare what it would look like if I pasted regularly without plain text. This is the difference. With the regular, we are seeing whatever formatting google.com had applied to all that text, and it came along with it. When we paste as plain text, we're just seeing the text by itself. The link still appears because it was the text itself, but the hyperlink is not activated, and all that formatting is gone.
Is the eraser that you have, if you paste it without doing the plain text, I thought you could use the eraser, select it and use the eraser to get rid of formatting.
You can for the most part. Not every single piece of formatting may or may not change. So I'll try it out with that whole section that is formatted. If we use the eraser, it's the remove formatting icon. It
No.
does remove a lot of the like bold or italicized stuff.
But not everything.
Not everything. The headings are the formatting that we see usually does not change when you use the eraser icon. Even if you have it entirely highlighted, you know, from top to bottom, and I use the eraser, those heading styles remain.
Okay.
So let me get rid of all that so that we can try to make this kind of look like this email that we're working with. Okay, so then let's go ahead and get the other pieces of text. Make sure that I don't include the image. Okay, it looks like these might be part of the image here. Okay. One other thing too, it might be a good tip to save yourself any trouble if it is harder to highlight something, especially share on Facebook and share on Twitter would be easy for me to type in myself. So I'm just going to copy the rest of the text that's there, and I'll worry about adding those social media buttons afterwards. I'm going to skip one line so that I can leave space for my image. And I forgot to remove the formatting, but I'm going to leave it how it came in because that's not bad. The table there automatically was brought over. And so now we have all the text in there. Actually, before I move on to the images, I'm going to add in the text of those buttons. And I think that's what they said. Really, the next step is it can change. You can either move on to moving over the images, or you can go to adding the links. I recommended to the webmaster earlier this week to go with the images next, just because her email included images that had links on top of them. So it made sense for her to have the text and the images in there and then copy all the links and activate them all and get them going. So for this one, we don't have the image linked. I'm just going to copy the hyperlinks that are attached to each one of those social media buttons. And we can recreate our own using the styles here if we wanted it to look similar to the button that's in the email, or the other option would be to use the media library and try to find maybe an image that says something similar or says, you know, Facebook. You have an option of either or, but you definitely want to insert the link that you have copied. Oops. It is usually, if it's coming from an email message that you received, it's probably going to be a long string of URL because it's usually going to have some tracking information in there. So another option you could do is just go directly to that organization's Facebook or Twitter and copy the URL that way. But either way, make sure you have that linked and inserted. And we're going to do the same thing for Twitter. And you can do it in either order, linking it and then adding the button or vice versa. And here in the WYSIWYG, they do appear like they are connected. They, I believe, will have a bit of a space once we save it. Yes, Maddie, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, you know, one thing that I've noticed is that it always makes the links red. And like in this case, it would be really nice if the text was white. Is there a way to change that, or are we stuck with the links being red?
There is a way through the HTML. It's definitely not the handiest and not the simplest, but I will make a note of that because I believe that they should automatically be appearing in white when it's the button style added.
Okay, so in our building of it, it looks red, but when we then save it, presumably they will be white. Is that
it should be the case, but I have seen where it can remain like this. So I definitely do want to make a note and check on that.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that one up. Okay. And so now my last step is just to add the image. I definitely need to save the image to my device first. So not just copying it from the email, you need to save that so that you can upload it to the media library. One other option would be if let me save it just like that. If the image is saved somewhere online, somewhere other than MyLO, you can also upload it using the image URL. And I'll show that off as well. So I'm going to first add this image from the email message. And I skipped a little bit here. I had my cursor in the place where I want the image to drop, and I'm opening up the media browser. Let's choose that picture that I just saved. In this folder, yes. And so once we choose that, you can either click upload or go straight to next. And we want to leave this as a public file. If it were a private file, then members would have to log in. I wouldn't recommend for images. And then I'll leave the file name as is. You do need to express permission for each image that you upload. And I just want to keep this one to myself in the media library. This is voter dropping ballot. Just a description of what is going on in the image. And then title text and file description are just really helpful to, the file description is helpful to other webmasters. The title text is helpful to any visitors that see the image. But let's just go with demo image, delete for media tag to proceed.
And Maurice, just to confirm, we have to indicate something on there.
For the media tags, at least
Yeah.
one.
I don't, yeah, because I'm always doing the website, so I just put social media, but it's meaningless, but okay.
If for things like that, if there are ever categories that you think of that, would cover a lot of your media, then let us know because we can always add and make changes to that list.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then this is just kind of a confirmation page of what you just specified on this image. You can usually just proceed to submit. The only browser that we've noticed that doesn't have the resize border, I believe, is Firefox. But once you drop the image or insert the image into your editor, by clicking on the image, you'll be able to resize it by any of the corners or the top or the bottom. Definitely recommend moving by the corners. And so, yeah, that's how you'll upload the image when it's from your device. But let's say I have an image that is online. So I'm just going to see if I can upload one of our logos. I just need to first find the URL of this image. And typically, so let's say we're visiting a page like this. It might be you're visiting another league's page or your county elections, whatever it may be, but you're wanting to make use of the text and the images. To get over to the image URL, you can usually right click on the image, and the option is something like copy link address or copy image address, something along those lines. Or you can open the image in a new window, usually by clicking on it, or I'm going to go back. If you can't get to the image just by clicking on it, you can also open, here it is, open image in new tab. That will let you see the image URL. And you'll know that it's the image URL because it ends with dot whatever the image type is. So dot .png, dot .jpg, dot .gif. That lets you know that it is the URL of that file. And so what we can do is copy this. I'm copying the URL from the top of the address bar, coming back over to my editor, and I'm going to add this image in. So I dropped it to a new line. I'm opening up the media browser, and instead of upload, I'm going to use the web tab. And so this is not only for YouTube and Vimeo, but it does allow you to upload images or PDFs. The cool thing about this is that it should allow you to upload larger files. So I know that many users had asked the question about our file upload limit, because the upload tab has a limit of 2 megabytes per file. And this web this method of uploading via web does allow for larger images, or images and PDFs, files in general. So it does require you to upload it somewhere online before you can upload it to MyLO. But that could be something as easy as maybe uploading it to your Google Drive or something like that. But that's an option there to upload via the web tab. And then the same thing, the destination, I'm going to leave it as public. And then the name as well, I do need to say I have permission. And we'll leave this just to myself in the library. Okay, so I'll leave that little logo in there. I'll go ahead and save this email. Sorry, I'm going to come back up so I can actually scroll slowly here. So I just added to the body with embed code. I'm not going to worry about. That is if I had a nice YouTube video or a payment form to add in there. Let's go ahead and we'll fly by the rest of those categories. I have to choose which league I belong to, but most of you won't have to worry about that. And let's just publish this.
We don't even have a title for it, though.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Okay, let's call this WVCF donation. No. Okay, thank you. So we'll save that and see what that looks like on the other side. I definitely could have centered my image. But yeah, it is a similar idea. I mean, definitely except for the logo. But that looks pretty similar to my email. So, and it is good to see that the buttons, the links did change, but I will still be checking in because I do believe I've seen that before where a link has remained red. But yeah, so starting out with text first, copying that and pasting as plain text is the easiest way, whether you use your right clicking mouse to paste in as plain text or Control-Shift-V, or like Jan reminded us, the tool on the WYSIWYG that has the little T on it. And then either your images are next to be uploaded or the links from there.
That button share on Facebook, is that tailored at all to the person who actually made the donation, or is it
Could be. It does depend on how robust the system is that sent out the email. So for us, we use every action as our database. And so it would depend on how we've built up this form on every action to really be specific, or just say it's just tied to the campaign rather than the individual. Now, that is a good question though, because it definitely could be something that if you click on, it would generate a message that says, thank you, Amaris, for visiting our Facebook. When it comes to sending somebody to a social media, I would think that you're pretty safe for it not to be a personalized thing. If it were going to generate, let's say, a message to your senators, that might be pretty specific. It could say, this is for Amaris and Senator Padilla, and are these your legislators? That you may want to steer clear of, but that is the same reason why you may also want to just go directly to that organization's Facebook or Twitter account and just pull the URL from their page instead of using the email links.
Isn't that though something that's saying, I put on my Facebook page that says I donated, so other people look at it and say, oh, Liz donated to the League of Women Voters. I think I will too.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It might be like a, let's see, I'm going to log in and see what it looks like. Okay, it's just a generic donate to the League of Women Voters, but it is a post that is trying to be created. It did
That's
require me to
all right.
log in, so if one of you clicked on it, it will probably be personalized to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not bad. Definitely worth testing out the links before you publish an email to a page. So thanks for that, Liz, because I didn't even check them out. And so I'm assuming share on Twitter is the same similar concept. Oh, okay. It says, I just gave to the League of Women Voters of California Education Fund. My gift will help support efforts to build participation in the democratic process. That one is a little bit more specific, especially if you're trying to use a message that isn't, or if we're taking the example that I had, it's specific to one person. But if you were trying to make changes to the email message so that it was more generic, just make sure that the links are generic as well. Pretty much, yeah, like how Liz was saying, you want to check out if they're personalized or not. Let me go ahead and unpublish this. Oh, here we go. All right. Did anybody have any questions? Any other questions about that?
Amarin?
Yeah. Hi. Yes.
Um, we had a large, as you know, insert in our newspaper published by the State League of Women Voters.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to promote it on the front page. And then is there a way to, when you click on learn more, to have it open the PDF instead of going through another page and then to the PDF?
Oh, yeah, that is a good question. The read more button won't allow you to open to see a PDF. And let me show an example of what Mary is referring to. On the home page, just the same as the articles, action alerts, positions, and the members only, we see previews of content like this. It has the title, it has a little summary, and then it has the read more link. And so Mary's question is about this read more link. If you're able to make this link lead somewhere else. And the short answer is no. When you click on read more, the only option there is that it will open this item. So the same action happens whether you click on the title or you click on read more. But the other part of Mary's question is, can we get a link to a PDF from this section? Instead of using the read more link, you can add the link to the PDF somewhere in this summary. So it could be an easy, quick click to get to the PDF. It just won't be through the read more link. So why don't I get back to that article? I'm going to use this one to promote to the front page, and we'll play around with that, that summary. Okay, so I'm going to remove some of that personal info and just get rid of these links. Okay, so there's a couple of options. If you want the summary section to be different from the body, because essentially what we see, and I'm going to open up my home page once again. So coming back over here, just looking at this one as an example, the clone of donate, this little section can come from either the body here, the first few lines of the body, or if you want it to be explicitly different from the body, you can have something in the summary so that it will, the summary takes precedent over the body when it comes to displaying on the front page here. So if you were just adding it to the body, that's the easiest way. Let's just go with that. So the first step would be typing out your text. I don't know exactly how you would want to word it, but the more obvious something is, the better sometimes. I'm just going to go with something pretty straightforward. And so highlight whatever portion you want to create into the link, and we need to open the media browser. If you need to upload the item first, go through that process. So either upload it from your computer or upload it from another source on the web, or just look through the other tabs of files so that you can find the correct document. I'm just going to use a sample here. Either double click on your selection or click submit after you've selected it. And then submit one more time, and that should activate your link. Well, why don't I go ahead and save it like this with the body, and then I'll come back in and show you what's the easiest way to add it to your summary. So let's check out what this looks like. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. Let's just promote this to the front page immediately. So this is what it looks like on the page. And let's see what it looks like on the home page itself. Okay. It looks like it may not have made it. Ah, I know why. I opened up the summary section. And so let me go ahead and close that up. That is probably creating a line of link space above the body. Delete all that. Okay. So let's go on back. I just backspaced and deleted in the summary to make sure that I didn't leave any empty spaces there. Okay, coming on back to the home page.
I've had that happen to me too. And then, so what I do is I go in and actually create a summary. I have no rhyme or reason why.
Okay. Okay.
Does it have anything to do with that page not being published? Not actually existing yet?
I did publish it so that we could see it here on the front page. I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure, but I am going to try what Mary Jo said and just add into the summary. But I did make a note because it should always automatically take the body if it, or take from the first few lines of the body if the summary isn't filled in. Okay, so let's just go to the summary. When you click on edit summary, that's when this section appears. One big important difference between the summary and the body is that the summary does not display the formatting. So you do need to add the HTML tags to create the formatting. So what you can do is actually copy from what you have here in the body. If you didn't already have this added to the top here, this link, let's say that it wasn't there yet, and I wanted to add that same information, that same link here in the summary. Instead of just typing directly into here, because I don't have any way to add the image or the PDF in because I don't have a WYSIWYG toolbar, one trick that I do is to add a new box. We're temporarily just going to add this new additional formatted text box because we can easily type in, format, and insert a PDF using the WYSIWYG formatted text box. So again, typing out what you want the link to read. And then I'm going through the same steps that I did just a second ago, just so that I can activate this link. So I'm looking up a PDF. I'll use sample PDF this time. And once I drop that in and submit that, I have an active link. I can't copy this. Well, I can obviously copy it and paste it. But if I copy it from the WYSIWYG editor side, come back up, whoops, to the summary, and let's paste that, hoping that the formatting stays. But because this is a plain text or a non-WYSIWYG window here, this little text box for summary, it won't hold on to the hyperlinking that I added through the WYSIWYG. So instead, coming back down to this little formatted text box that we added, you can either disable rich text or from the WYSIWYG dropdown, click on full HTML. It's going to spit out the same options to you. But what you want to do, whether you've clicked on disable rich text or full HTML, copy what is given, and that's what you want to put in the summary. So I recommend that method because it is the simplest way. It's definitely a little bit clunky to maybe remember or to get going, but it makes your life easier because I would never in a million years know how to type this HTML out. You definitely have another option of, going to the media library and finding the link to that PDF that is already uploaded into the media library and pasting it into here, creating your own HTML. But this is definitely an easier way of doing it. Just adding a new empty formatted text box guarantees that whatever you've added, once you disable rich text or you're looking at the full HTML side, you know that you are copying only the HTML for that link that you've generated. If you try to do it here, it's harder to differentiate between the sections because HTML just runs like a run-on sentence. But yeah,
I
so
really
then,
like that trick.
okay, awesome. And then the last step would be just to remove the box that you added. Once you click remove, you can either proceed to save your changes or it gives you the option to restore it or confirm deletion immediately. But upon saving your changes at the bottom, it will have removed that. So let me go ahead and save. I added to our summary and I removed that from the body. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Still promoted, and we'll publish that. Okay, so we do get the summary. Yeah, it definitely should appear automatically if there is no summary. So that's an odd one. And Mary Jo, you said that you had noticed that before. Do you happen to remember what type of content it was? Like, was it an article or an action alert?
Well, it would have been an article.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And this was an article too.
It's not a big deal. I guess I never noticed that the summary was, so I guess I'm not sure. So if I do a summary, does that take the place of something? Or is it just, I've got the summary and then I've got everything else and maybe I'm repeating some stuff and I just have to look at the stuff on the read more and just make sure I haven't repeated it. That's probably what it is.
If you have used the summary section along with the body.
Right, yeah, so I'm gonna have to just make sure I haven't, used twice the same language.
I don't think it hurts to use the same language,
It just depends. I have to just see what it looks like. Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah.
I think to Liz's point, just because it is on two separate pages, I think even if it is repeating,
I see what you're saying, because the summary is not going to show up on the read more. Duh. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, and I would not mind getting information twice because by the second time, I probably am actually taking it in.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. One thing, I did have this as a question earlier and I thought, oh, I'm not going to worry about it, but sometimes, okay, so I'll do a calendar item, here's a webinar coming up. And then when after it happens, then I want to let people know, well, here's a link to the webinar, So I can't remember now if I just try to edit the calendar item or if I actually end up doing an article. So I guess my question would be, is there some way, I know I could take the date out of the calendar, but it's still showing up, I think, probably as a calendar item.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you would have to have at least a start date. You'd have to have at least one date associated with the event still.
I don't know. I thought I'd take it, but maybe I'm not going to contradict you. I'll have to look at it next time.
Is it a link to a webinar? Oh, like the recording, like post
the recording
after the event.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I wanted to, I don't want to have to retype the whole darn thing. I just rather use what I had, but then just kind of massage it. And I'm not sure if I've been able to work with the calendar or not, but I must not because I had a question about it.
Right. And
Anyway.
well, okay, we'll break it down piece by piece. As far as the calendar item, if it is an event that is in the past, it will automatically be removed from your main calendar and it'll move over to view
Right.
past events.
Right.
But you can always link to anything from anywhere. So if you wanted this event to be linked from an article or you still want it promoted to your front page, you can still make that happen. I'm going to go back to my main calendar so that we can edit one of the demo sites events. So it will remain on the calendar, whether it's
Okay, all right, that's
still
what I've done. I've
upcoming
just
or
edited it. I've just,
okay.
yeah, I just did it. Okay. I
And
just
there
didn't know if
is, I think, a section for post-event details or something. I
Oh,
don't usually use it myself. Oh, here it is, post-event details. We have a section for media. I believe that this is going to be just PDFs, and then images. So there isn't necessarily a section for text or links. Links would be like
that's what it would
text.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I would say that if you wanted to make changes to the events, you could even just add to the bottom and make it a very clear post event details or whatever you wanted it to say, and then list your information. Or like you were
That's true.
saying, the article option is also good too. Creating an article that says, you know, this past event happened
Yeah.
and here we have this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
information.
save some time, yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, so, oh, this is just a sharing thing. So I create an article for the main page and I think, you know, this would be good under a particular part in the menu, you know, a drop down thing like on
Mhm.
recycle or district or something. So I have found that I can just copy and paste the article and put it in there and it keeps the links. Because you know, I didn't think, I thought maybe I'd have to, you know, do the whole thing again, but
Oh, I see.
my experience is that you know, the links still work. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, like from, let's see if I can find see if a Google Help article may help or provide us with a good example. And so I think what Mary Jo is referring to is like this, where you copy a chunk of text and there's links included in that text. For the most part, the formatting when we find it online is pretty good. You'll probably know by just by looking at it if the formatting could cause an issue when you paste it in. But just looking at this, and
So it's
especially
just like any other online article is what you're saying, I think.
yeah, for the most part, you can copy from online sources because the formatting is usually pretty simple. I'm going to test that out just with my homepage here. Where we see a lot of formatting issues is when you're copying from a Word document or a PDF or an email message. There's a lot of theming and formatting that is being dictated by the original sender. And so that's where we can see a little, it get a little hinkier when you paste in without plain text.
Well, what I'm saying is that you know, I've created an article on MyLO.
Mhm.
And then I think, you know what, this is good information. I'm going to put it also on another part of the website under my menu, under local, you know, voting or something.
Okay.
And I thought this would be a big deal, but it looks like I can just, and I'm not worrying about, you know, I'm just adding to a page. And the links work. I thought maybe I'd have to do something else.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes, definitely. Copying, especially when you're copying from a MyLO page to another MyLO page or
Yeah.
article or whatever it is on MyLO, it's a perfect translation. It will always carry over the formatting. It should usually carry over images. But if that causes any issue, then you can use the media browser to drop them back in. But everything else for sure will be kept, like any of the formatting, the
Yeah, it's great.
styles or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's great. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, so we're talking about pictures and the, you know, the PNG and all that stuff. Sometimes when I'm, I'm trying to get a logo for an event, for an organization or for the event itself, and I right click and I want to see the, save as picture or something, or I'm saving it and it only saves, it doesn't save it as a extension, and it saves it, it looks like a website thing. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know what the extension is, but it's obviously some kind of web thing. There's nothing I can do with it. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it sounds like
know
it's
what
a web page that is trying to be saved instead of the image.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I don't know how to.
Yeah, that one is a little tricky without an example or something to play around with. I think that maybe sometimes by clicking on the image, I'm not sure if that would take you to the link.
Yeah, fool around with it a little more.
Yeah, and see if maybe you can try to select or highlight the image, like click on it, and then if that gives you a different set of options when you right click. But yeah, definitely worth playing around with. And if you come across that again, I wouldn't mind you sending it my way, and I can play around with it to see if we can find a solution.
You know what I did? So we probably all know about the Freedom to Vote Act, and so they had a really good webinar the other night. But so I wanted to make that into, and this isn't the question I had about the slideshow, this is another thing, but I wanted to, I want to put something in the slideshow to sort of replace the of the For the People Act. And so I was writing and I couldn't find anything to even work with. And so I did write to the woman who sent all the stuff out after the webinar. And I asked her, I said, many of us are using MyLO and we could create a slideshow, and I'd love to have a nice picture. And then I put 800 by 400. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but that's what the documentation says, asking her, did she have anything that we could use? And then she answered back, and she took me to some vote page, and they're all moving. All these things are moving, these pictures. So I just wrote back to her. I says, well, thanks for the pictures. They're fun, but it's not what I need. I said, I'll wait and see what your developers come up with, because they're supposed to be doing some more graphics. But anyway.
Oh, nice. Well, that is a good point. Anytime that you have an opportunity to ask for graphics, it's worth a shot, especially if they're going to have them sized to the right dimensions already. That
was my point. That here they're begging us to advertise this if they could make it easy. And I don't know if you ever work with those people, but it would just, well, speaking to the crowd or the choir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I've had trouble with HEIC files because for the Mac, they're replacing the JPEG file format. And so I have to play around, and sometimes they do screen grabs, but I often have to bring them into Photoshop or something and save them as JPEGs. And it's not something that MyLO knows about. So it's supposed to be a higher quality image. Of course, with online, you don't really have to have too high quality, because it's 72 DPI or something. Anyway, so that if I've taken the picture with my phone or something, then I have to deal with that. And so there are converters, from HEIC to JPEG, but it's like with Mary Jo, it's a bit of a obstacle. It's
Definitely.
not just does anybody else use HEIC files? Have they found that on their Mac? Maybe people don't use Macs or iPhones.
I have attempted to upload iPhone images before, but I don't know if I've run into that issue myself. When it happens, Liz, do you get an error message?
Oh, I never even tried to because
okay.
I didn't see it listed as a format, acceptable format. I should try it. I can do a little more research on it.
Yeah, let me know. Because I definitely can bring it up to our tech team to see if it's an option for us to integrate it as an accepted format. But if it somehow just lets you upload the item, then we might not have to worry.
Yeah.
When Liz mentioned the iPhone, I don't know if I ever got back to you, Anne-Marie, when you told me about how to get the
Oh,
picture from
yes.
my phone where it worked.
Yes, yes, yes. I was very happy that the simple trick worked. So
Why don't you share it again?
yeah, Mary Jo had an image that was originally taken on an iPhone where on her iPhone it is appearing right side up. It's appearing as it should. But once uploaded to MyLO, it would go on its side. And so trying to, rotate it on the computer, you are seeing it right side up again. But when you uploaded it to MyLO, then it might be turned a different way, but it was still not how it should appear. And so my advice was to either take the original image that was on the phone or re-download it back to the phone from the computer, but you need to edit it on the phone and rotate it 4 times. So it's essentially sitting properly again. It feels as if you didn't do anything, but once you upload it back to MyLO, it is evident that it is right side up and there's no issue anymore.
Yeah, I
So-
was so happy.
Yeah, if you come across this silly little issue, there's a silly little solution.
Great to know.
Yeah.
That's why I love these sessions. We learn from everybody else's experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely want to keep each other all in the know.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, as always, thank you for a lively and good session that we had. And we'll be picking up the next one. I don't have my calendar up, but what is that? October 8th?
Yeah.
Yes. Make sure I have it on my calendar. I do. October 8th at noon. Yeah, we'll see y'all next time. And if I have a little something planned for y'all, I'll try to drop that into the Google group before that session, but I'll be sure to post a reminder either way.
Thank you, Amaris.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining.